Hello, Clash Daytona athletes. I am Mark Turner, USA Triathlon Commissioner of Officials. Please pay close attention to the contents of this rules briefing, as we will be using World Triathlon aligned on-course penalty notification, penalty structure, and draft zones for the Clash age group races. Athletes will be notified as soon as possible and safe to do so if they have received a penalty. Bike course penalties will be served in a designated penalty tent. All other penalties will be served on the course as stand downs. Bike course penalties will also be posted on the penalty board, and it is your responsibility to check the board to ensure whether you have a penalty or not. The Clash Daytona sprint races will be a counterclockwise course, and therefore athletes must ride left and pass only to the right. The Sunday Clash Daytona middle distance age group races will be a clockwise open road course, and therefore athletes must ride right and pass only to the left. The following illustrations reflect how passes must be completed and not on what side the pass must be completed. Remember, on counterclockwise track courses, riders must ride left and only pass on the right. However, on clockwise courses like the Sunday race, riders must ride right and only pass on the left. In keeping with World Triathlon International standards for sprint distance races, the bicycle draft zone for the sprint will be 10 meters long by 2 meters wide. This equals 5 bike lengths of clear space. Upon entering the draft zone of another cyclist, a maximum of 20 seconds will be allowed to pass through the zone of another athlete and complete the pass. The bicycle draft zone for the middle distance race age group athletes will be 12 meters long by 2 meters wide. This equals 6 bike lengths of clear space. Upon entering the draft zone of another cyclist, a maximum of 25 seconds will be allowed to pass through the zone of another athlete and complete the pass. Age group athletes often move left well before they approach or enter the draft zone of the leading cyclist. Athletes must ride to the right and only move left in order to complete a pass. The athlete riding bike number 2 in this illustration is out of position and in danger of incurring a blocking penalty, which would be a yellow card penalty. Here, the athlete on bike number 2 has entered the draft zone of bike number 1 and must complete the pass in 20 seconds in the sprint race and 25 in the middle distance race. There is only one exit once an athlete enters the draft zone of the cyclist in front, and that is out the front. Athletes who enter the draft zone and are observed backing out of the zone are subject to a blue card drafting penalty. In this illustration, the cyclist on bike number 2 has closed the gap. There's no clear space, and 15 seconds has expired. The athlete riding bike number 2 has now completed the pass within the allotted amount of time, and now the athlete riding bike number 1 has lost the right-of-way and must completely exit the draft zone to the rear before attempting a repass. An athlete who is observed failing to drop all the way out of the draft zone before repassing may receive a yellow card penalty. Athletes observed being passed who failed to yield the right-of-way to the passing cyclist and immediately repass the overtaking cyclist are subject to a blue card drafting penalty. For both distances, the motorbike draft zone is 15 meters long. For all other vehicles, the draft zone is 35 meters long. For the sprint race, an athlete accumulating 2 blue cards for drafting will be disqualified. For the middle distance race, an athlete accumulating 3 blue cards for drafting will be disqualified. Athletes who fail to stop as required prior to crossing the finish line are also subject to disqualification. Remember, in the sprint race, a blue card is a 1-minute penalty. In the middle distance race, it is a 5-minute penalty. In the sprint distance race, a yellow card is a 10-second penalty. And the middle distance race, it is a 30-second penalty. Let's cover some general procedures now. Athletes penalized on the course must stop on the course as required. If an athlete has been notified that they have received a penalty or believes they may have received a penalty, the athlete must check the penalty board near the penalty tent to confirm. Remember, it is your responsibility. Every effort will be made to notify all athletes subject to possible disqualification on site and prior to awards. Athletes facing disqualification will have a full opportunity to discuss the circumstances with the head referee for the event prior to a final determination of the penalty. Let's cover where the penalties will be served in the procedures. If the penalty occurs at the start, the penalty will be served in T1. For the swim, it would also be served in T1. If it occurs in transition 1, there'll be an opportunity for warn and amend, and that will happen in T1. If it happens on the bike course, if the violation occurs there, then it will be served in the bike penalty tent. If the violation occurs in transition 2, once again, there'll be an opportunity for warn and amend and for the athlete to correct the behavior rather than receive a penalty, and that will also happen in T2. For any penalties on the run, once again, a warning, an opportunity for amending the behavior, or a time penalty on the spot. The following chart gives the water temperatures for wetsuit use for age group athletes. Water temperatures may be adjusted due to air temperatures. The following chart in the next slide in Celsius will be used to determine wetsuit legal water temperatures for age group athletes. If provided, a swimmer must wear the proper official swim cap corresponding to your wave if there is one. Wetsuits cannot exceed 5 millimeters of thickness. Wetsuit tops and shorts are permitted when wetsuit legal. When the use of wetsuits is prohibited, swimwear must be 100% textile material. Wetsuit caps or hoods are currently legal when wetsuits are legal. Booties and swim socks are currently legal when wetsuits are legal, but may not aid in propulsion. In other words, no web-like construction is allowed. Gloves are allowed when wetsuits are mandatory, but may not aid in propulsion. In other words, no web-like construction again. On the swim course, let's cover a few last reminders. Follow and complete the prescribed course in its entirety. Floating or artificial propulsion devices of any kind are forbidden. Start in your designated wave if there is one, and not an earlier one. Using an inanimate object to gain forward progress is forbidden. Participants may use any stroke to propel themselves through the water. Remember to wear your helmet with the chin strap fastened at all times while in possession of your bike during the bike portion of the race. Cyclists must follow and complete the prescribed course in its entirety. Cyclists must obey all traffic laws. Cyclists must not ride in a way that would endanger themselves or others. There's no littering or discarding of other personal belongings outside of designated areas. Headphones, headsets, radios, and personal audio devices are prohibited. During the run, no outside assistance, such as pacing by a non-participant, personal audio devices, including bone-conducting headphones, or receiving aid from someone other than race staff is allowed. If you have further questions about the age group competition rules for the Clash Daytona race, please do not hesitate to contact me at the information here. I look forward to seeing you at Clash.